Okay. A line in my own video, as I was going back over it, inspired a new video. And that is how we choose to view things. Being within is being at the level of interpretation, where we can choose instead of having things chosen for us. Instead of reacting, we can ponder, we can respond, we can do nothing, we can just observe. That's the very best of all. And then you move when the elephant steps on your foot, and then pretty soon you're being danced all the time. And it's just amazing what comes out of your mouth into your thoughts, into your heart. Okay. One way of looking at life, and it's very dualistic, is this whole thing with the powers that be, or the powers that were, the Illuminati, the bad guys, being in control of things, and yada, yada, yada. That whole line, we're all very familiar with it. It's a legitimate perspective. I'm not saying that it's not. Everything is a legitimate perspective. It's just a matter of choosing. And we choose from the level of interpretation. We go deeper. We get off of the surface of things. And this is accomplished most easily, I found, by turning our gaze within, by self-observing, taking our eyes off of the grand drama out there, and looking instead to self. That immediately removes a huge part of the clutter, the hamster wheeling mind kind of thing. It gets simpler when we start looking within. Besides which, we have this tremendous potential, unique for mankind, that we've heard of, and that's that could it be that we really are creating what's out there? Sure, it could. Anything's possible. So along with our looking inward, let's open, be totally open, empty the cup, just pour everything out, trust and believe nothing and no one but Source and your own higher self, your own inner guidance. With that empty cup, we sit very much at the point of the fulcrum. We sit at the point of interpretation, where we can choose and where we can see. If we're on the surface, it reminds me of what Einstein said about you don't solve a problem by remaining on the same level with it. And so we go one level deeper, simply by turning our vision inward. It's a habit to develop. And especially for the young ones, it can come on very, very quickly, because all of this is stuff stuff we know. We haven't had access to all of our knowing for quite some time. We're on the way back. We're recovering, rejoining, and remembering the dismembered self. Now, it was never really dismembered, but that's just one way to put it that gives a picture that can be useful. We're walking away from any kind of a need for words as well, so that all of our challenges and tongue-tiedness we run into won't be the case anymore. Communication will be on a much deeper level, and you'll get the full meaning, the import, the understanding. You'll get the whole, everything around it. You'll get the whole context along with the communication. And so there's just no room for misinterpretation or misunderstanding or secrets. Okay, where was I going with this? What was that line that so inspired me? Oh, choosing. Choosing to see anyone and anything as an enemy. As we rise up in frequency and consciousness, we begin to see that we contain the poles instead of polarizing to one side or the other, and that being just how we feel about things, and so we think it's right. That's surface living. It's very superficial. It's a natural, very natural movement to let that go and to find a much deeper level of understanding. As we look within, we realize we contain it all. And we can find it within, and there's your proof, or your evidence at least. Depends on where you are in the process, I guess. There are many who still believe the NDE is a hallucination or not real in some way. Just like there are many who don't believe that there's life anywhere else, in spite of all the evidence in the UFOs and the abductions and all of it. Some people, it's going to take their own NDE or their own abduction in order to convince them. So don't bother to try. Leave them alone. They're happy that way, and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that's their angle of perception that they've chosen. And it's okay. It's their life, right? So let's be concerned with our life and not that of our neighbor. For those who have turned the whole focus of their life to service, this will be a challenge, but you're going to find that it will merge with your understanding at some point. I just suggest you have to go maybe another rung or two up on the spiral to see the point of merging. Your being, just by being, performs a natural service to all life. And so in a funny, backwards and upside down kind of way, by focusing on the self, you bring the greatest service to life that can be brought. So you're not betraying yourself by having a look at this. You can at least explore, and you can turn it down and set it aside if it doesn't work for you. Have that freedom. Give yourself that freedom to explore ideas that don't march side by side with your own. You're the king, you're the queen of your kingdom, your inner kingdom. What you say goes. Okay, so we have polarized all over the place, and that is to pick an enemy, to name anything as an enemy. In order to do that, we also have to identify with something in 3D. That's a part of the polarization thing, thinking we're the body or the mind. If we remove that element, then all of a sudden our polarization begins to fall apart. Suddenly we find we're automatically in higher consciousness, in a higher perspective, once we quit identifying so much with the body-mind. And what that means is you don't trust everything the body-mind has to say, all the thoughts and all the feelings. You're at the point of interpretation. You're deeper, or just one step back from the surface or above it. I mean, you can look at it any way you choose. These are all 3D kind of terms, and they're rather linear. But when you're in heart with me, you just know what's being said. You can feel it. It's a different experience entirely to listen to one of these journals or to anyone from the head, and then go back and listen from heart. Okay. Choosing to see someone as an enemy as we rise in consciousness, quite naturally. We're being lifted up. It's not that you have to do anything. We have to release all resistance. Release all resistance to the natural flow that is floating us up, carrying us along. On the solar wind, which is very intense today, and with the Venus transit, we're being carried, we're being lifted, we're being elevated. All we have to do is be and not resist. That's not so very hard. It's just different. It's just out of our comfort zone. It's not what we're used to. Big frickin' deal. You know, you're divine. Take that on as a belief. The more you identify with your own higher self, be a source beam, as Nancy Dennison calls us. Be the source beam that you are. She says everything that's in 3D, everything can be seen as either a thought in the mind of Source or an imagination that Source is having. It's like Source is writing a book, and we're the characters. We can do that. We can write a book and have characters in it and invent what they're going to do or say. We can give them tendencies, and then we can find that the writing kind of takes off on its own, and it's like the characters we've created kind of become real. We experience that every time we watch a movie, go to a play, see an opera. We're creators. And we can create enemies. And so we have. Choice point. Do we want to continue to do so? We know that at higher levels still, everything is all one. And so your worst enemy is yourself. There's no Hitler, there's no Mussolini, there's no whomever it is that you're not. There's no reptilian, there's no devil, there's no demon, there's no nothing that you're not. It's all one. It's all us. Now, that's at a higher level, but it's not that much higher. As we rise into 5D, we can see it. We really can, and it becomes very sensible. Just like many things are sensible on the level of 3D, when we go to 5D, a lot of that stuff just falls apart as mere nonsense. And I suspect it will be that way for every shift, every major shift in consciousness that we make. So I'm going to suggest that it's at the level of interpretation where we are literally creating our enemies, and that we can cease to do that. First is to accept the concept, the possibility, and just let it be. Just be with it. Feel into it. Ponder. Or meditate, if you will. What empowers that? And it's up to you to find out. If we can just be with this, we can take back much of the power that we've given away. We've thought ourselves besieged and abused, mistreated, abandoned, all the rest of it. We can choose another way to interpret all of that, every bit of it. Now, it's going to be shocking because we have believed for such a long time that we were right in the way we looked at things, thought about things, analyzed things in our beliefs. Part of this rising up the spiral is again and again recognizing our own false beliefs. We not only recognize lies that we've been told and that are built in to 3D the way it's operating here and now, but lies that we believed firmly, oh so firmly. I mean, look back at your own life. We're progressing so fast now. Time is crunching and intensifying so much. It's accelerating so fast that I don't care if you're just 30 or maybe even 20. I don't know anymore. You can look back and you can see tremendous change. And you can look back and see things that you used to believe. We don't have to go to the lying history books that tell us that, we used to believe that the earth was flat. That's mere nonsense if you go back far enough. Santos Bonacci does a good job of burning that one at the stake to show us that how many centuries back the understanding that the earth was round goes. And so there's nothing out there to believe and trust in. Go within. Trust source. Trust self. Meet you there. Good day.